Hello everybody, Justin from Playing Board Games here, and today I'm excited to do another one of these 5 Arkham horror hot takes from members of our community in our Discord channel, and also in from our YouTube comments. I went through and gathered some hot takes to put in here and talk about and kind of discuss. Because my favorite way to learn Arkham is to challenge my own preconceptions of the game. If I have a more open mind, I will learn more and I will do better. So that's why I like to always check out these hot takes and see what I think about them and discuss them here, whether I agree or disagree. This isn't so much about me saying this hot take or this hot take is right or this hot take is wrong, but rather instead this video is about discussing these hot takes, diving into them, and giving my thoughts kind of like why they may exist and some thoughts about why and some evidence of why this might be a thing. So let's go with our first one here, which is a very interesting one. When I saw this hot take, I knew I needed to include it. So we are well past the time that versatile to be considered a bad card. There are enough options for most deck building strategy that having an extra 5 cards actually doesn't do that much. So versatile came out in Dream Eaters. You get +5 deck size as a permanent, 2 XP, and your investigator's deck building options gains one of the other level 0 cards from any class: Guardian, Seeker, Rogue, Mystic, Survivor. This is actually a card on this channel that we memed about for a very long time when it came out. All 3 of us, Travis, Brent, and myself, all said that versatile was not good, not worth it, and just for all intents and purposes, like, unplayable in the state that the card pool was currently in. However, the card pool has only grown since Dream Eaters. So, for reference, when Dream Eaters was out, when it was out in actual, like, first release, we had Core, Dunwich, Carcosa, Forgotten Age, Circle Undone, and Dream Eaters. So that's 6 cycles. That is a lot of cards. After that, we got Innsmouth, Edge of the Earth, Scarlet Keys, and Hemlock Vale. And also the Investigator starter decks were kind of like in between. They were like, I think they came out in like Circle Undone or Dream Eaters, so I think they were there when that first came out. But those 4 extra packs, especially with the likes of Edge of the Earth, really did a lot to open versatile up to the point where I agree with this this hot take. I think that like this is it's one of those things where like some people, when they say their hot takes, they kind of say it like I do this. They say it kind of more like a lukewarm take, where it's not considered to be a bad card, where hot take would be versatile is like an S tier card. However, we're not talking about that. We're just talking about this as a good card or a bad card. And I agree. I do not think that versatile is a meme card. I do not think it's a bad card, and I think it has a lot of intended uses. The biggest one, going back to Edge of the Earth, is where I truly think versatile opened up into a completely new space. This is mainly due to the fact that, if you don't know, Edge of the Earth came with 5 level 0 permanent assets, 1 for each class. That all cost, they're all level 0, and they're deck warping. They're not like deck warping in the sense that they warp your deck into something new, but they change kind of the structure of what you're able to do with your deck. These are geared up. It lets you play item assets on your first turn. You just don't take a regular action, you're just going to play item assets, reducing their cost, I believe. You get to play, maybe they don't reduce the cost. I don't know geared up at the top of my head. There's Force Learning, where you get an extra 15 cards in your deck, so 20 with versatile. And then you, instead of drawing a card during upkeep, you look at 2, draw 1, discard the other. There is Underworld Support, which lowers your deck size by 5, so actually completely negates the versatile issue. In a weird way. I don't know how that actually works for deck building. Don't ask me. Don't ask me that. But what it does do is it makes that your deck can only include 1-ofs as opposed to 2 of each card, or myriad 3, for example. There's Down the Rabbit Hole in the Mystic class, which is the one that you see most often for versatile. And what that does is it reduces the cost of the first 2 cards you upgrade by 1, and that's really good. That's really good to go into other classes for that kind of thing. It's one of those things that a lot of Dunwich investigators actually use it pretty commonly, just because they don't need to take versatile to do it. But other investigators, Travis actually did this in a Roland Banks on our Scarlet Keys blind play. And then there's Short Supply, where you get to put the top 10 cards of your deck into your discard at the start of the game. This is what I point to as the big shift for versatile for me personally, became less of a meme and more of a function. You've also seen people do it with Harvey Walters to get their deck size bigger and get like Deny Existence to be able to deal with Harvey's weakness. And it's one of those things that the card has really like popped off since then. However, in addition to all of these permanents from Edge of the Earth, level 0 cards have actually also just greatly increased in power level since Dream Eaters came out. When I point to Edge of the Earth being a very strong player card set, I freaking mean it. The cards in that set are actually insane. There are so many good cards in the experience level and in the level 0 level. So like Versatile is just really good at like giving you just like more of those options. Not even necessarily just more of that off-class card, right? Like the off-class card is certainly good, but even just like if your deck has a lot of draw, which draw is also getting better as the game goes, it means that like Versatile is just like more good level 0 cards, and there's just a lot of power to them. A lot of people in the early days would take Versatile to just make it so they have to cut less cards. Well, I don't really comprehend that as my own deck building style. I think that it's now very apparent in the card pool that that is a viable strategy, and I do ultimately agree with this hot take that Versatile is a good card. Do I think it's S tier? Am I going to go that high? No, but I think this card is good to great depending on what you're doing with it, which is a lot better than when we first talked about it. I remember we did a list video which was like 5 cards to Versatile for investigators. And Travis at the end said, I don't want to do a video like this again. And I think we should. I maybe at the very least I should. But I think that there's a lot of new viable things that have opened up with that. And I think Versatile is really good because of that. All right, let's keep this going with our next hot take here, which is too many similar but different versions of cards is boring and makes the game easier. I prefer to see reprints of staples rather than marginally different cards in future expansions. So I'm going to talk about this in 2 forms. One, for similar but different cards is boring and makes the game easier. We're going to tackle that first, and then I'm going to talk about the I prefer reprints of staples rather than marginally different cards in future expansions. So this came out and came to a head when the Feast of Hemlock Vale player card box was being spoiled. And a big issue was that is these 2 cards here, Grift and Faustian Bargain. There's also Bank Job. It takes 2 actions. You get to divvy out 8 resources. It costs 2. It's in a level 0 event. I should have actually included that in the slide. I'm sorry that I didn't. But there was a lot of hubbub and people talking about how these cards weren't exciting, and because it was kind of just versions of cards we already had. Well, I don't necessarily agree with that sentiment because Faustian Bargain and Grift are actually doing 2 very different they're doing the same thing. They're loading you with resources, but they have very different ideas of how you want to play the card, and it's not just like do the same thing. So like Bank Job and Faustian Bargain are also like they're probably a closer comparison, which is why I actually feel kind of dumb that I didn't include it here. But because they just like load you up with resources, they can divvy about on the team, but they also once again kind of have different use cases for them. I think Bank Job is a super playable card. I don't think it's as good as Faustian Bargain. Faustian Bargain is just kind of like bonkers, busted, broken. But like Bank Job does have a home, and Grift as well has the tested 0 synergy. You're doing a foot test at 0, so you can commit a watch this. You can commit double or nothing if you're playing that style of you're playing without the taboo list. It could also, you can put on like a nimble, so like that's where like Grift opens up. Bank Job has that synergy with if you are using like double and like you're doing like event synergy. While Faustian Bargain is also an event, it's one of those things where like being able to just like take the turn, not putting in 4 curse tokens, there's the pros and the cons that come with it, and then on top of it, it's just like more resources, even though there's less, like there actually is just like there's going to be more given out to other people as need be, or to yourself. And just also big money decks will sometimes run all of them, right? You could see a big money deck no problem that's running Faustian, Bank Job, and Grift. They're all super playable. Do I agree that it makes the game easier? Yes, I do think that redundancy just in general makes card games easier and makes you more likely to win because you have the pieces you need when you want to need them. Does it make the game more boring? I personally disagree with that part because there's going to be economy cards in every box. Their shape can change and be different. I think a big issue was that Grift and Bank Job came out in the same box. Like if it was Bank Job in one, Grift in the other, it would feel a little bit less oppressive. Like when I oppressive, I mean like boring. But it's one of those things that I think that I think in actual practice, they play a lot different than they actually seemed on the tin. To the second part, I'd prefer to see reprints of staples rather than marginally different cards in future expansions. I think that if the difference is big enough in the example of Faustian, Bargain, and Grift is here, I disagree. If it's close enough like Faustian and Bank Job, I also personally, I mean, I agree with the sentiment. I agree with the sentiment that I want to see reprints of staples, just because I think it would make the game better. I know that might sound stupid if you're an enfranchised player like me who buys everything, but I would love more copies of like Deduction. I would love more copies of like Lucky, right? I'd love more copies of Vicious Blow, just because then I sometimes have multiple decks that I'm trying to build. However, what it also does is allows maybe not from the core sets, maybe from like other cycles, or just reprinting cards from the Return Tos. I think that Arkham, I think I would like it if Arkham was a bit more reprint happy than it actually is. But with that said, would I rather see reprints of staples rather than marginally different cards? I don't think so. I mean, I wouldn't mind if they were like, we need an economy slot in this deck. Why don't we put in, like, not Faustian because it has curse tokens, but like, if we need like a card draw card, like what if we just like reprint one of the ones we had before? I don't think that would be terrible. However, with that said, I would be very sad if a card like Grift didn't exist, because I do think it actually was pretty sick for the game, and there's a lot of cool things you can do with it. Now, blink and you'll miss it, but we're going to go on to our next take here. What the hell? What the hell? People need to start evaluating new investigator boxes on their own merits instead of just going by the whole card pool. Starting and ending your card rating with Faustian is better is supremely unhelpful to an ever-growing amount of people. We're still running this conversation, everybody. We're still running it. So I actually, I thought this was super interesting. When I asked for hot takes again on our Discord channel, this is one that they actually came pretty quick to each other. It was a back-to-back from two people. The one who said the one before, and this hot take right here. This one I think is a little bit different. I do think, I mean, card evaluation from a community is good and is great. It's discussion, and it's like super awesome for the game to have like a place where people can talk and share their feelings, right? Whether it be on Reddit, on our Discord, on Mythosbusters Discord. These are all like good places, and our YouTube comments, and like YouTube comments of other channels, right? Twitter, right? All these places. It's good that people have a place that they can like, that there's discussion about Arkham happening and talking about the game. With that said, ourselves included this channel, card evaluation is hard. That's why Travis likes to wait until we see the whole box in practice, and also why we don't finalize our opinions until we actually have played with the cards a few times in like scenarios to see if they actually are functioning, right? And I understand, like, especially the frustration of people who are a bit more kind of open with how they approach card evaluation, to just see a card like the discussion of Faustian, Grift, and Bank Job, of that it's just Faustian is better than Bank Job. Because in a vacuum, it's true, right? Like, just in a vacuum, it's true. And I mean, it's also kind of apparent that I forgot Bank Job here in this slide, but that isn't a slight against Bank Job. I think Bank Job is still playable for the reasons I talked about, but I agree a lot with the point here that it's supremely unhelpful to an ever-growing amount of people. I have a slightly different perspective as a content creator than random posters sharing their opinion on cards, right? I enjoy fostering discussion about cards that goes beyond just when I have the ability to remember to do so, that it's a better environment if we're able to discuss the cards more openly beyond just Faustian is better. Because I do agree, Faustian is better than Bank Job. However, there is a lot of little things that change the value of one card to another, as I just previously talked about that other slide. People were also talking about, because I remember this, once again, this is when Hemlock Vale was being spoiled, Faustian versus Grift. And Grift is, while I don't think it's better than like Faustian Bargain in a vacuum, I think that Grift has a higher ceiling, right? Like when I say ceiling, I mean like the card can do more powerful things on average, not on average, but like on the high end compared to what Faustian Bargain does. Faustian Bargain always gives 5 resources, always puts in 2 curse tokens, always splits between the people. That's really good. Grift can move you 3 locations while giving you 9 resources, or it can just give you 6 resources, or it can make your next test -2, -3 difficulty, right? These are the things that like like just saying like why would I play Grift when I could play Faustian Bargain is, I agree, unhelpful like kind of dialogue to have in terms of getting new players into the game and seeing what the card pool can do. And I think also it also kind of limits yourself as a player. I am, even though people try to tell me I'm not, every freaking day of the week, I am a Spike. I am here to win. I am here to win as efficiently as I can. And even a Spike, who is always just saying Faustian is the card here that I'm going to play because it's better, might be missing what the true value that Grift can provide is. Same with Bank Job. Why would you be doing that one over the other? And I think that's where like we can really grow as players if your dialogue doesn't just close on this Faustian is better rhetoric, yada, yada, yada. However, let's go to the first point of this one, which is people need to start evaluating new investigator boxes on their own merits instead of just going by the whole card pool. I agree with this kind of in theory, that the idea is that if you're looking at the Hemlock Vale box, you should look to see what's in the Hemlock Vale box. However, I disagree by not going by the whole card pool, because I actually think going by the whole card pool opens up the dialogue on these cards. That is the reason why Grift has a higher ceiling than Faustian Bargain. I understand that that's like a little bit... the first point there is kind of standing by this, which is just like, it's like, the idea is don't be closed-minded about how you're evaluating cards just because one card exists. And I think that is a very good piece of, a good take to have on this game. All right, I promise you we're done with these 2 cards. We're going to move on to a new one, but I just liked how similar those 2 were. Let's go on to take number 4, which is 6 Cents is a bad card unless you are running token manipulation. Wow. I'll let this one sit with you for a bit, because I actually think that a lot of people are going to disagree with this hot take. And I think this hot take is actually hot. This hot take is like, I'm grabbing the potato and I'm like, ooh, ah, ooh, ooh, you know, like trying to take it out of the microwave. I'm like, ooh, this potato's freaking hot, yo. And it honestly, like, it got me for a second too, right? That's how you know, like, for me personally, when a hot take is hot, because I mean, actually, this is for anyone too. When you look at it and you're like, wait a minute, what the hell does this mean? But then I thought about it for a bit, and I'm actually like, I get it. I understand what this is saying, and while I don't agree completely, I agree with it on the base level. So, let's talk about 6 Cents. 6 Cents has no burst clue potential on its own. You have to be hitting a skull, cultist, tablet, or squid to do so. Token manipulation makes this possible, which I think is really where the power of 6 Cents comes in, because the reality is, if you have no token manipulation, a Rite of Seeking is going to outperform a 6 Cents at pretty much every level of experience. And that's where this hot take is coming from. Basically the idea is, unless you're building to trigger that clue burst potential every turn, maybe not every time you activate it, because you can only use, for example, all of McBride 2 once a turn. It is one of those things that I do agree that you are leaving a lot on the table if you are not fully using token manipulation to draw the tokens that you want to trigger your 6 Cents to get that extra clue. I'm talking about the level 4 version here because the level 0 version has no burst clue potential. It's just like you get to change where you're investigating. So like, unless you're playing like Olive, unless you're playing like Jacqueline, unless you're like doing this suite of cards that I have here, I do think the value of 6 Cents and in a way 6 Sense Zero goes down, but less so. Like if you're playing 6 Sense Zero to just passively investigate, because the upside of 6 Sense is that it doesn't use any charges, but the cards like Rite of Seeking, Clairvoyance, Eye of Chaos, they all use charges. I mean, Eye of Chaos is its own separate thing. But they all give you an extra clue if you hit, right? So they're giving you that burst clue that the 6 Sense doesn't. What 6 Sense does do is, because it doesn't have charges, it has an upside. When you hit the symbol, you get that burst clue that the other ones just get by having a charge spent, right? And I can see why people think this is really good. I was one of them. I was one of them for a very long time. But then I just saw Travis play a Rite of Seeking, which is just like, oh yeah, this card's just like really good at getting clues, right? However, if you are running token manipulation, 6 Sense is very, very good. It's very good. It's very good. It is in itself its own archetype, right? So I talked about this in the recent Father Mateo video, and this is where 6 Sense, I think, truly shines when you're using token manipulation. So I agree on the surface level with this point. Do I think it's a bad card if you're not running it? No, I think it still will get the job done, but I think your deck will be less efficient if you were just not putting a Clairvoyance in. With all this said, the user who left this take is notable for playing mostly 3 or 4 players, and I think that 6 Sense doesn't really keep up as well with that. So like if you're playing a 4-player game and you say I'm the Clover and you bring a 6 Sense with no token manipulation, it's going to be a really bad time. I think 6 Sense is more functional at 2-player and even 1-player. I mean, especially at 1-player, just having a thing that you don't need to spend charges on to get the stuff is like really good. If you ever hit a symbol on that, just like passively doing it, you're like, I'm off to the races. So I think that this does scale with player count. However, if you are playing a 6 Sense and you are kind of just like not running any token manipulation, I mean, there's no reason not to roll with Olive McBride too. She's insane and she's so good. Maybe ask yourself, like, would this be better as a Rite of Seeking and a Clairvoyance? Because odds are the answer is yes. So that's why I agree with this one as kind of like a broad statement that I do think that it's I'm not going to go as spicy. My potato isn't coming out of the microwave that hot. But I already told you, I paint with as much of a neutral brush as I can with most of these. Is that I think that your deck is... 6 Sense is going to weigh your deck down if you're not using token manipulation. And you would be better off with something else. So I think this is a great thing to talk about, and I think this is a great point. On to our last hot take here. This one is, for me, not that hot. But I'm curious. I mean, actually, honestly, I think for the community, it's not that hot either. But I think that this is a good talking point. And that is, Taboo Mandy is completely balanced and not S tier with all the nerfs and power of other investigators increasing. If you don't know, Mandy Thompson was tabooed in 2 ways. One was in the taboo list, which was her deck size now needs to be 50 cards. The other way she was tabooed is that she hasn't received any search support in a very long time. So, Mandy's ability is a very strong ability. When an investigator location would search their deck for or the encounter deck, they may search 3 additional cards or resolve 1 additional target of the search. Mandy was very oppressive when she came out. I'm pretty sure Mandy is actually responsible for a good chunk of taboos in her time. I'm not 100% on this, but I'm pretty sure she is partly, if not fully, responsible for things. I imagine Trish might be part of this as well. But 3 Aces and Pendant of the Queen, I'm pretty sure like Mandy Thompson is a big reason for why that exists. A 30 deck size Mandy Thompson is absolutely lethal and will kill the hell out of any scenario that she's put up against. She is like, it's insanely efficient. She has a killer stat line, a great ability, and then like some of the like the secondary class choice deck building is some of the spiciest in the game. Then she was tabooed. 50 cards. You have to do the 50 card option. Notably, you could have chose 50 before, and Travis did, and Travis still kicked ass with Mandy. Travis is also very good at playing like toolbox style decks, so I'm not surprised that he's like really good at Mandy. He can look at like 12 cards and immediately know this is the best card I need in this moment right now. So he functioned with that. However, for everyone else, it really did slow Mandy down quite a bit. And I thought she was still S tier at this point. Mandy is still good. She's still good at searching her deck. However, I agree with this take completely that she has stagnated. And we're going to point at this card down underneath me when I talk about her second taboo. And Gloria is getting it too. I mean, we're going to see when her box comes out if Gloria actually gets any tools to play with. But Gloria has also started to kind of see this with the Antediluvian Hymn changing the wording. So, Mandy Thompson. When an investigator location would search their deck or the encounter deck, search. So all of the cards before was search, right? Friends in Low Places was traded was given the text of look. Look at the top 6 cards of your deck, which means that Mandy is not able to do that. This, in my opinion, and maybe this is my lukewarm take of the video, there's no reason why Friends in Low Places should be a look. It should be a search effect. It should remain consistent. If they're worried about Mandy getting a boost from that, like c'est la vie, that's life, right? That's kind of the process. I think that having look and search ultimately just ends up to like a gotcha for the viewers. Well, not for the viewers, sorry, you guys are the viewers, but for the players of Arkham. Like as a new player, they like are like, oh, I got Dream Eaters, I got Scarlet Keys, I got the core set. I want to play Mandy Thompson. I want to play Friends in Low Places. I'm going to search. But then someone eventually online says, nah, I'm sorry, this does not work the way you intended it to because this is looking, not searching. And I think that's just a little bit messy. However, while it's not like 100% that this is to curb the power level of Mandy Thompson, it does seem particularly kind of like targeted in order to keep this in line. Because Mandy Thompson, I think, is, well, still much weaker. I think she is, I agree with this. She is pretty balanced. I would still put her in like the A or A plus tier depending on how I'm feeling about her because she does still have 5 book and she does still have like a bitchin' ability, right? But everyone else is getting stronger. Like other investigators are, well, not everyone else, but like most other investigators are getting stronger. They are getting more cards that synergize with their kit. But Mandy Thompson is kind of just getting Seeker Good Stuff. But the reality is that Seeker Good Stuff also actually isn't as strong as it once was. It's still good. Like all player cards are still like, they're still banging. But like Seeker Good Stuff has kind of, it's not that what it was back in the early days of Arkham when they realized that, oh, maybe we shouldn't do this all the time. And like that's kind of where the issue with Mandy is. The issue with Mandy. The look, there's a it's like look existed, I'm pretty sure, on the on like cards like Scroll of Secrets, where it's like Lightning Bolt, look at the bottom card of your deck, look at the bottom 3 cards of your deck. In my opinion, if they want to do look and search, look should be always the bottom, search should always be the top, right? I don't know. I just think like it just feels wrong of me for me that this is like it is this way, but I do agree that Mandy has dropped quite a bit. And again, I think this is less of a hot take for the general Arkham community, because I think PBG was slower to get there. I also do know the user that left this comment does like to try to push PBG's buttons and see if they can get a good reaction. It's kind of like a Bryn. Like they like to troll a little bit to see if they can get us to pop. But I agree with this one completely, and I think it is actually a very I like having this as an opportunity to talk about this aspect of like this Mandy Thompson getting secondary tabooed because of this look instead of search. And I also see it with Gloria, right? Gloria, the same thing, Antediluvian Hymn. It's like instead of looking at the top cards of the Mythos deck, it's reveal. I'm actually going to find out what it is because I need to just. Can you tell me how to spell Antediluvian? I did all right. Yeah, so it's reveal the top cards of the encounter deck. So now, for example, like in an effort to kind of curb the power level of investigators that were busted, we still are in Gloria's case. We're muddying up the language of the game, which I think, unfortunately, in the long term is going to cause more complications for new players than it would otherwise. Because, like, you look at Gloria, and once again, kind of like with this Friends in Low Places, you look at Antediluvian Hymn, and Gloria's going to come out in the next set. It's going to be like, hey, I'm going to look at the top cards here, and then it's like, actually, technically, it doesn't work that way. It's a different word, which is good. It is a different word, but words mean things, and in games, I think that words meaning things is... there's a limited amount of time you can use these words before it starts getting a little bit too messy. All right. Thanks for watching, everybody. Those are 5 Arkham Horror hot takes for members of our community. I actually have a bunch more. Like, I think I actually have, like, 15 more takes waiting in the wings. So there will be another one in a few months, and I'll probably ask for more hot takes. And again, if you want to leave some more hot takes, I'll definitely include them in another video. I like talking about this, and I like diving deep into Arkham. These are fun videos for me to record, and I like learning and changing my perspective. And maybe, like, yeah, Sixth Sense is a bad card unless you're doing token manipulation. Amen. Huge thank you to all of our patrons for supporting the channel. You guys all rock so much. If you would like to support our channel, you can do so by finding a link to our Patreon down in the video description. We have a lot of different posts there, different deck lists. We get 2 deck lists a month. We get 1 video a week there as well for the higher tiers. But thanks so much for watching, everybody. Have a good one. And as always, a GG's.